We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
President Biden once again flubs how the markets work and gains himself some new friends by doing so, and perhaps one or two enemies. Where did it all go wrong for the man who promised to end fossil fuels? Well, we're joined by economist and author Andrew Moran to help find out the whys, the hows, and the what the hells. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
So, what did the president say this time? And perhaps more importantly, who stood up and took notice?
Well, once again, it was the same old nonsense for the last several months. It was him blaming everybody else except himself. This time, he was targeting, once again, mom and pop gasoline stations, telling them to cut their prices. You know, he just completely devoid of why gasoline prices are high in the first place. I mean, if he thinks that these mom and pop gas station owners are colluding and just price gouging consumers, it's a lack of understanding of what's happening in the broader energy market. Same with, his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. She was uttering the same thing, saying, "Oh, it's a failure of market dynamics and why this is happening." So
that market dynamics thing, that came directly from Jeff Bezos, I believe, who openly criticized the president on the Bluebird platform. What did he say?
Yeah, that's been interesting about Jeff Bezos when he's calling out the administration again, saying that there's either misdirection or a misunderstanding of what's really going on in the financial markets. He made his billions. He doesn't care anymore. So like Elon Musk, who also made his fortune by, kowtowing to the government, he doesn't care. So he's just calling it for what it is. And he's absolutely right. That it's either misdirecting the American people heading into the midterms or just they're ignorant and they don't know what's going on.
It's funny, isn't it? I've never seen Jeff Bezos described as a MAGA king until he decided to criticize Biden's energy policies. Yeah.
If I may just say one thing, I would say I would give credit to a lot of left-leaning economists or figureheads who've done a pretty okay job of calling out the administration. We've discussed this before. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, he's called the administration many times, particularly over the American Rescue Plan and contributing to inflation.
Yeah. Now we also had China weigh in on the subject. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, so there was this Chinese journalist who belongs to China Daily EU, which is a state-owned news organization, and he was saying, "Oh my goodness, thank God a U.S. president understands what capitalism is and that it's an exploitative system." So when a communist is supporting an administration or an administration policy, you should take a step back and say, "What the heck is going on?"
Biden was just fundamentally wrong in what he said. He wants gas station owners to take the hit to help the public, right? To help them recover from this insanity inflation that he helped produce through his policies. But the reality is, and I think I'm right here, that the average gas station in the US, it takes roughly 3 to 5 cents profit per gallon sold. Is that about right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The average percentage-wise is 1.4%, and if you compare it to all other industries on an average, it's 7.7%. So yeah, these gasoline stations aren't making their money from the fuel; they're making a lot of their money from the concession stands, the snacks, the goodies. Or if you're in Canada, you partner with Tim Hortons and sell your doubles. But so that's where they get a lot of their money from. And also too, there are other components involved with gasoline stations, how they price. Well, in this market specifically, the refineries, that's a major component of why gas prices are so high. Refineries is you extract gasoline from the crude and then sell it back to these companies. Problem is that refineries are operating at maximum capacity. A lot of them have shut down. 6 are currently offline. So
Let me jump into that for a second, Andrew, specifically with the refineries, because wasn't that what the Keystone XL pipeline was all about? Was about transporting I believe it was sand crude from Canada down into America for the refinery purposes. So wasn't that basically the starting point of all these issues, that people couldn't do the refining that they need to do?
Yes, that is correct. However, a lot of these numbers of the refineries have gone down over the last 15 years, even before the concept of Keystone XL was conceived. And this is not just prevalent in the United States; it's prevalent in Europe and Canada. So the refineries are necessary, but the problem is that nobody expected the level of demand and the overall collapse of the broader energy market would occur. So these people were not forward thinking. They shut them down thinking that, okay, we're going to have our windmills and our solar panels. So the need for refineries will not be as immense as it was before.
You say that nobody could have predicted what would happen, but to be fair, I think several of us, when we heard Joe Biden say he will end fossil fuels, kind of saw this coming, didn't we?
No. I don't mean over the last year. You look at my articles.
The trends over the last 15.
Yeah, I can defend my record for saying I've written about this a long time. Even the start of the pandemic, I said that oil was going to touch $100 a barrel. I was absolutely right. So no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying 15 years ago, nobody could have foreseen a coronavirus pandemic. The Russia invading Ukraine, and all the and the Fed printing trillions of dollars over a 2 year span. That's not for very long term thinking. So that's my
understood, Andrew. You're absolutely in the clear. Your record is exemplary as always as an economics prognosticator. Now, let's talk about the oil and gas leases in Utah, because this kind of flew under the radar for many people. Now, we hear Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre and President Biden and his other spokespeople saying there's 9,000 gas leases. We do know that this is not strictly speaking true. Sure, there are 9,000 gas leases. Not all of them actually have oil and gas in them. That's the thing. It costs money, it costs investment to find out if there's stuff there. And then, of course, you've got to go through the process of finding it, extracting it at a price where you can actually make a profit, because nobody does this for free. But to shut down potential new oil and gas leases in Utah, how does this happen when we're facing a crisis that I think everybody can admit can only be solved by saying, drill, baby, drill?
Yeah, well, this whole thing is interconnected, because the reason why they said they canceled the lease was because of a technicality whereby one of the oil wells that was connected, or natural gas wells that was connected to one of the leases, was actually already plugged by the U.S. government. But in reality, the real reason from my standpoint was that they wanted to appease the environmental groups who are planning litigation to stop that from happening. And you see this all over the country. These environmental groups, they were the reason why the Alaska. The government says it was because not of interest, but it was because of the environmental organizations and their lawsuits that led to the shutdown of the Alaska oil and gas leases. And now the U.S. government, they're planning several other auction sales for oil and gas leases in Western states. The problem is that these environmental groups are already warning, we're going to start litigation soon, and then the U.S. government is just going to cave and appease them, and then you're going to have the exact same issue over and over again across the country.
Well, I think that there's a clear connection here in terms of methodology with the immigration crisis at the southern border and the oil and gas lease auctions. If people are motivated enough to launch lawsuit after lawsuit because the government has already told you that it's willing to cave, I quote Joe Biden again, I will end fossil fuels, then really they're just setting themselves up for failure here. This is a situation that Joe Biden created with his own rhetoric and then the policies of his administration. What did he expect?
No, you're absolutely right. The American Petroleum Institute and several other groups that represent the oil and gas industry, they've been saying the same thing, is that we don't have confidence that the administration or the federal government is going to have her back in court if they have to fight against these environmental groups. The API and all these other organizations, they present the same ideas of what would facilitate greater production and exploration. A lot of this is a permit and easing process. A lot of them is, stop this whole rhetoric of ending fossil fuels. A lot of them is just reducing red tape. And if I may add one thing too, you made a point about the whole oil and gas leases. What's funny is that the Bureau of Land Management, if you read some of their statements in certain states, they say that, we approve all these leases, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to production. They said that 1% of oil and gas leases will lead to output. So you can say this whole 9,000 number as much as you want, but the proof is in the pudding, is that it's not going to necessarily lead to this whole massive amounts of crude output. So stop with this whole 9,000. It's nonsense by now.
So 90 would be the correct number there. Andrew Moran, thank you ever so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
In just a short moment, we'll be back talking liberty. Just how did Governor Hochul think she would get away with defying the Supreme Court? Don't touch that dial. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We're doing it for real, really real. Liberty Nation.
And Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
I think we're starting to make an impact. Liberty style, fighting for freedom.
The tracking poll sponsored by Liberty Nation for Thursday.
Mentioned by Dan Bongino, Rasmussen, Jordan Peterson, and
I can
others.
do it again if you want me to.
Cited in Mark Levin's American Marxism.
I think we're starting to make a real big impact. Get noticed. We're doing it. Rock on. I'm gone.